So, one of the big problems that people always want to know about is what happens when tenants don't pay. As you can see, it's super stressful. No, but seriously. So, if you don't pay your rent, I'm coming to get those late fees, even if that means that I got to do it at 11:40 at night at the self-service kiosk at the post office. So, we're here, got notices to send out, trying to help people, but can't help. You gotta talk to me for me to help you. So once these notices hit people's mailbox, usually they start talking and we're able to work something out and help everybody out. You gotta make sure that you dot all your I's, cross all your T's, because just like you as a landlord are always working to provide safe, secure housing for your tenants and to solve their life problems as they come up. Similarly, whenever you have a tenant that is late, you need to make sure that you take care of yourself by following all the laws, all the rules, and all the best practices to make sure that rent gets collected quickly. Because you know that as a landlord, if you don't collect your late rent, it's your paying tenants that are going to suffer the most. Because as you're short on cash, you're going to have to defer their maintenance, or you're going to be doing other things that unfairly penalize your paying tenants because you're still waiting on rent from your late tenants. Got the mower, weed eater, blower, trimmer, everything fits right in here. You can close this up so that way none of this stuff gets stolen. So rent collection isn't just about making sure that you get paid for your obligations, but also making sure that you get paid timely so your paying tenants aren't being unfairly penalized for the fact that they actually did what they were supposed to do. So I want to walk you through a little bit of what it's like this month, because I had a high number of late payers and no payers this month, much higher than I've ever had before. And so I want to talk to you about how I handled that. We're about halfway through the month now, and I've already collected the majority of those late rents and late fees. And there's some more coming in later today and tomorrow, and I don't anticipate having any defaults. But just because I actually experienced it this month on kind of a larger scale, I figured it'd be a good time to answer the question that I get so often from so many people. I think a lot of people are scared about either renting out that house you inherited or renting out the house that you just moved out of, because everyone's terrified of becoming a potential landlord where you still have the obligations of a mortgage, insurance, repairs. But what happens when that tenant doesn't pay? So now I'm back from the gym, done with my workout, came to the house, thought I was going to be able to work on my schoolwork, but instead of schoolwork, now I've got orders for drill for the military reserves. I got to finish up these orders, sign them, upload them to some archaic system that I need to enter my orders into so that way I can go to work in 2 weeks with the military reserves. Also came back to a text from a tenant, needs a copy of their lease. So once I finish uploading these orders and I get a copy of the lease back to that tenant, then I can go back to what I was originally planning on doing, which is working on some of the schoolwork for my master's program. So it's 8 o'clock at night. Still haven't gotten this paper written that I've been trying all day to do. So I'm going to get to it. So non-paying tenants is exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video. This is a great month for me to talk about it. I've had late rents, I've had tenants moving out, I've had a lot of different stuff. We've had to deal with all of it, so I thought, why not talk about this thing that everybody asks about all the time? So what happens when tenants don't pay? So first and most common is the tenant who knows that they're going to have a late payment. So when you screen, like I do in almost all my houses, we screen for 600 credit score, an income 3 times rent, 3-year work history or school history. And so that leads to a very high quality tenant. So a lot of times, before the upcoming month, a tenant will tell me, hey, I'm having some trouble. I'm not going to be able to make my rent on time, and we can go ahead and work out a time when they can pay that rent later. I do have late fees that are in my lease, but a lot of times when a tenant lets me know ahead of time that their rent's going to be late, we're able to discount those late fees for them because they were being proactive and let me know about it. So even though I am entitled to the entirety of the late fee, if someone's proactive and it's an unusual occurrence, usually I'm able to discount those late fees for them. The next tenants are those who their rent just bounces on the first. So I do ACH withdrawals for the majority of my properties. And so when one bounces, a lot of times it takes 9 business days for the ACH to come through. So I don't know about it till the 10th that the rent bounced. And then at that point, I have to notify the tenant that their rent's due. So for tenants who deposit their rent, which some of my houses, I have several different leasing programs, and on one of the leasing programs, tenants deposit their rent in the bank account. So this is when a tenant didn't notify me that their rent was going to be late, and I found out either because the rent didn't get deposited when it was supposed to, or the automatic withdrawal bounced when the rent was supposed to be paid. So now the next step is going ahead and technically starting the eviction process. So as soon as that rent is unpaid, you need to send the tenant a 3-day notice in most states. So right now it's 11:41 p.m. and we're here at the post office. You can see I've got letters lined up here because we've got to get late notices sent out to tenants. So it doesn't matter that it's the weekend, been working, it's still the middle of the night. We got to get all this stuff sent out because we've got to dot our I's, cross our T's to make sure that everybody gets their proper notifications. So that's what we're doing. It's the middle of the night. This has got to get done. So that way, next week, everyone's had time to correct stuff before we move forward with any further actions. So even if you want to be sleeping, sometimes you just got to get some stuff done. So we're out here getting it done. So this is a 3-day notice to pay or quit, and in most states, it's the start of the eviction proceedings. So I am not a lawyer nor a financial professional, so please make sure to take any legal advice from a lawyer or a financial professional. Legal advice from a lawyer, financial advice from a financial professional. These are just stories about my experience. I've paid a lot to learn some of these lessons. However, the lessons that I have learned may not apply to you in your situation. So as soon as these rents bounce or are late, I go ahead and send out 3-day notices. I want to be very proactive about this. And so even if it's the middle of the night, I'm going to make sure that I get these notices sent out in a timely manner. So if this does have to go to court later on, I'm not slowed down by notification processes. Now, just because you're starting the eviction process doesn't mean that you're evicting a tenant. So don't worry, man. Like, I know some of you out there thinking, man, dude, they're a day late on rent and he's starting the eviction process. A lot of times someone didn't pay the rent, I'll shoot them texts or calls and they kind of start ghosting me because they want to figure out their problems on their own. But I'll tell you one thing, as soon as that certified mail shows up at their door with the late rent and the Missouri statute says this starts the eviction process, immediately people are calling you. And so that a lot of times that's what the letter does, is it gets the conversation started. So then as soon as you get the tenant on the phone, you're able to talk to them, hey, when's your rent going to be in? And a lot of times they'll be able to tell you, well, I get my next paycheck on this date, that's when I pay the rent. And at that point you can go ahead and verbally do whatever you need to do to help them out. But anytime I send a posted notice, it's going to be the maximum worst case scenario. Like, this is the rent that's due, these are all the late fees that are due, these are additional charges that are due. If this goes to court, you're also going to get hit with all the legal fees. So I definitely make sure to get those notices out with the absolute worst case scenario. But then 9 times out of 10, Ten's going to call you. You'll be able to work with them and figure out a solution that works best for you guys.